close your eyes for a moment. Picture this. A teenager lying in bed, lights off, only the cold glow of their phone lighting up their face. The screen scrolls endlessly. First, a glossy Lamborghini parked outside a neon-lit club. Then, stacks of $100 bills spread across a hotel bed. Then, a man in a ski mask, holding a weapon with one hand, flashing a peace sign with the other. No caption. Just emojis. To the untrained eye, it looks like another flex, another influencer flaunting a life that feels worlds away. But here's the secret, this isn't just a show. This is bait. Carefully crafted, strategically designed to pull the curious closer. Behind every glossy picture lies a silent message, come join us. There's money. There's power. There's invisibility. This is how the cartels have evolved. No longer hiding in jungles, no longer whispering in coded phone calls. Today, they live in the open, hidden not in darkness, but in plain sight, buried beneath hashtags, likes, and viral sounds. They don't need silence anymore. Their invisibility is louder than ever. One young man in Mexico stumbles across a job post, high-paying security work. No experience required. Travel included. It looks legitimate. It feels safe. He clicks. Days later, he is transported across the border, surrounded by men he doesn't know, in a world he can't escape. Another teenager, this time in the United States, spends his nights glued to YouTube. His favorite channel uploads music videos dripping with excess, gold chains, champagne showers, assault rifles flashing under nightclub lights. The lyrics are catchy, but they carry more than rhythm, they carry promises. Promises of status, respect, untouchable wealth. He begins to believe that maybe, just maybe, this life is real. And maybe, it could be his. But it's not just the viewers watching. Somewhere else, far from that teenager's glowing screen, a cartel leader is live streaming his own reality. Surrounded by armed guards, walls stacked with bricks of cash, bulletproof SUVs lined up in the courtyard. And yet, millions of people are watching, commenting, reacting. A man on the run, broadcasting live, and not a single hand reaches to stop him. The question isn't why they do this. The question is how do they get away with it? How do they remain invisible while showing themselves to millions? How do they make law enforcement blind, while making the rest of the world stare in awe? Cartels no longer rely on whispers in alleyways. They've upgraded to encrypted chats, disappearing stories, and hidden signals buried in viral content. One emoji can mean a deal. One hashtag can trigger a meeting. And one viral video can lure thousands without a single bullet being fired. This is the new battlefield. And it isn't fought in mountains or deserts. It's fought on your screen. Music, money, and media, it all blends into one machine. A cartel can sponsor a song, and that song goes viral on TikTok. The money from streams gets laundered through fake labels. The lyrics deliver coded threats. In the comments section, it becomes a battlefield of intimidation. Everything looks like entertainment, but it's camouflage. And that's the terrifying genius of it. The more public they become, the more invisible they are. Because while the world scrolls, dances, sings along, and double taps, no one stops to ask, what am I really looking at? Stay with me. Because what you're about to hear isn't fiction. It's real. It's happening now. And to understand it, we have to step back before the filters, before the live streams, before the music went viral. We have to see how cartels once had no choice but to stay silent, before learning how to weaponize noise. This is how cartels use social media, music, and money to stay invisible.
You are watching True Crime Cartel Originals. Before we dive into today's story, I've got one small favor to ask. If you love deep, real stories like this, tap the like button, hit subscribe, and drop a comment below telling us which city you're watching from. It helps more than you know, and it allows us to keep bringing you stories no one else dares to tell. Now, let's get into the story.
Before we can understand how cartels mastered invisibility on social media, we need to rewind. Long before Instagram filters and TikTok trends, cartels built their empires in silence. Silence was their shield. Silence was survival. In the late 1970s and 80s, the cartel's power was forged in secrecy. Back then, communication was face-to-face, trusted only among blood relatives or sworn brothers. Messages were whispered in cantinas, sealed in envelopes, or sent through children carrying notes tucked inside their shoes. If you talked, you risked everything: your family, your life, your village. Their invisibility wasn't about technology. It was about fear. Whole towns knew who they were, but no one spoke their names. No one dared. Journalists were silenced. Politicians were bought. Priests looked away. It was as if the cartels didn't exist, even as they grew into shadows stretching across borders. And then came the 1990s. Cocaine flooded north. Borders tightened. The American demand was insatiable. Suddenly, invisibility became harder. Planes were tracked. Shipments intercepted. Wiretaps spread like wildfire. Cartels could no longer rely on silence alone. They needed strategy. They needed innovation. This is when the cartels transformed. They weren't just smugglers anymore, they became organizations. They created networks as sophisticated as governments. They adopted codes, satellite phones, hidden radios. They studied law enforcement just as law enforcement studied them. It was a chess game, and they were always one move ahead. But make no mistake, the violence was always there. If silence failed, terror filled the gap. Bodies hung from bridges. Heads displayed in town squares. It wasn't just murder, it was theater. A message: speak, and this will be you. Fear was their invisibility cloak, thicker than any shadow. And then, something shifted. The cartels discovered spectacle. They realized that being invisible didn't always mean hiding. Sometimes, invisibility meant being so large, so loud, so untouchable, that no one could see you, even when you were in plain sight. It was the perfect paradox. This was the birth of narco-culture. Expensive corridos, folk songs sung in bars, shifted into glorified ballads of cartel kings. Each lyric, a rumor. Each verse, a warning. Radios carried their names into villages. Their invisibility was dissolving. And yet, the more their names were sung, the more untouchable they became. By the early 2000s, another force collided with this world: the internet. For the first time, cartels realized they didn't need to hide in physical shadows. They could hide in digital ones. They could spread their image, launder their money, send their threats, not by word of mouth, but through screens. And this is where the story turns. The silence of the 1980s, the terror of the 1990s, the spectacle of the early 2000s, it all leads to the world we live in now. A world where cartels don't just move drugs. They move images. They move songs. They move dreams. And they do it through the very apps in your pocket. The stage has been set. The cartels are no longer hiding. They are invisible, because they've learned how to make the whole world look away. Now, let's pull back the curtain. Let's step into their new mask: social media. If the 1980s and 90s were about silence and fear, the 2010s brought something else entirely. A new battlefield. A new kind of invisibility. Not in the shadows of the jungle, but in the glow of your screen. Cartels had learned something profound: why hide in darkness, when you can hide in plain sight, inside the platforms everyone uses? Recruitment has always been at the heart of cartel survival. But once upon a time, it meant whispers in back rooms, offers made in bars, or threats made in alleys. Now, recruitment happens with a swipe. A teenager scrolling through TikTok sees a video: exotic cars drifting, champagne flowing, money raining down. The caption reads, "DM for opportunities." It looks harmless. It looks like hustle culture. But in reality, it's bait. Cartels send direct messages disguised as job offers. Security detail needed. High pay. Quick travel. Sometimes it's delivery driver wanted. Discreet. Must have passport. And sometimes it's more blunt, you want to make real money? DM me. For a teenager with little income and big dreams, the temptation is overwhelming. They think they're taking a risk for a job. In truth, they're stepping into a trap. And recruitment doesn't stop at promises. Cartels use fear, too. Anonymous accounts send threats if someone refuses. Others use romance, pretending to be friends or even lovers online, until trust is built. And then, one day, the ask comes, help me with this one thing. Just this once. That once often becomes forever. But recruitment isn't just about threats and offers. It's about image. Cartels know the power of flex culture. Instagram posts of champagne, Lamborghinis, gold watches, and private jets flood timelines. The message is clear, this is what power looks like. This is what respect looks like. This is the dream. And it's available to you. The genius, and the danger, is that most people consuming this content don't realize it's propaganda. For the cartels, flexing online isn't just showing off. It's marketing. It tells the poor and the restless, we made it. You can too. It tells rivals, we're untouchable. It tells authorities, we are everywhere. And each post isn't just for entertainment, it's a recruitment poster disguised as luxury lifestyle. But not everything is obvious. Some messages are invisible unless you know how to read them. Cartels have mastered coded language online. Emojis that look innocent actually mean drugs, shipments, guns, and money. Phrases like party tonight could mean a deal. A story that disappears in 24 hours might contain instructions for a drop. To the outsider, it's nonsense. To the insider, it's a playbook. Even slang evolves. Words are twisted, reshaped, repurposed. Work doesn't mean a job, it means a hit. Party favors aren't candy, they're kilos. And then there's the art of disappearing stories. Instagram posts vanish after 24 hours. Snapchat messages delete instantly. For authorities, the trail goes cold before it even begins. But it's not just about recruiting and flexing. Social media is also a weapon. Cartels wage digital warfare. They create fake accounts by the thousands to flood hashtags, drown out investigations, or intimidate rivals. They use bots to spread disinformation, to glorify their leaders, to harass journalists. And when someone posts the truth, trolls swarm in, threatening them until they go silent. There are chilling stories. A journalist posts about cartel corruption in their city. Hours later, their comment section fills with death threats. Their address is leaked. Their family's photos suddenly appear in their inbox. And the message is clear, delete. Or disappear. In the old world, intimidation was a knock on the door. In the new world, it's a notification on your screen. In 2021, U.S. Border Patrol reported dozens of cases where teenagers were recruited through TikTok with promises of $1,500 for driving a car across town. They weren't told the cars were loaded with migrants or drugs. Many were arrested. Some vanished. In Mexico, cartels have live-streamed executions, not to hide them, but to terrify communities. On Facebook Live, in real time, with thousands watching. And then, there are the songs, narco anthems uploaded to YouTube, monetized, spreading cartel legends worldwide under the guise of music videos. Each case different. Each case terrifying. And each case reminding us of the same truth, invisibility today doesn't mean silence. It means spectacle. It means camouflage in plain sight. Social media has become the cartel's new billboard. A billboard that recruits, intimidates, flexes, and hides all at once. And if social media is the billboard, then music is the anthem. If social media is the cartel's billboard, then music is their anthem. Songs have always been powerful. They can unite crowds, ignite revolutions, or immortalize names. For the cartels, music isn't just entertainment, it's propaganda. It's how they tell their story, control their image, and spread their influence. Not with guns. Not with speeches. With rhythm, rhyme, and melody. It began with narco-corridos, folk ballads born in rural Mexico. At first, these songs were simple tales about smugglers, about men who crossed borders with hidden goods. But soon, they grew into ballads of power and violence. Every verse carried the name of a cartel boss, every chorus glorified his empire. Singers performed not just for audiences, but for kings, narco-kings. These songs spread like wildfire. Radios played them. Bars sang them. CDs circulated from hand to hand. And each lyric served a purpose. It wasn't just music, it was branding. If a corrido praised your name, you weren't just feared, you were immortalized. Your legend spread faster than your product. And for young listeners, it created heroes out of criminals. But as cartels grew richer, they discovered something even more powerful: they could pay artists to write their stories. Corridos stopped being folk songs and started becoming sponsored propaganda. Singers were commissioned to glorify certain bosses, certain operations. Some songs contained subliminal loyalty pledges. Others warned rivals with subtle threats, disguised as poetry. For some artists, saying no was never an option. Musicians were kidnapped, forced to perform at private cartel parties, or threatened into recording songs they didn't want to sing. Others vanished entirely, silenced for refusing. The message was clear: music could be a tool of glory, or it could be a weapon of fear. Then came the rise of music videos. YouTube, MTV Latino, streaming platforms, all became stages for cartel narratives. A music video dripping with luxury, private jets, gold-plated guns, endless cash, looked like entertainment. But behind the scenes, it often served another purpose: laundering money. Expensive sets, over-the-top props, inflated production budgets, dirty cash poured into legitimate creative projects. A 3-minute music video became a perfect washing machine for millions. And it worked. Because who questions a music video? Who looks past the beats and the visuals to follow the money trail? Few did. Meanwhile, the cartels legitimized their income, one viral upload at a time. But not every lyric was obvious. Many contained hidden codes, messages embedded within verses. A mention of the eagle flying north meant a shipment. A reference to the black horse meant heroin. A city name dropped casually could indicate the next move. Rivals understood the signals. Authorities often missed them. What sounded like catchy storytelling was, in fact, an encrypted language broadcast to millions. And because these lyrics spread far and wide, the message wasn't just to those inside the game. It was to the public too. Each song reminded listeners, the cartels aren't just operating, they're thriving. They are legends. They are culture. The story of Valentin Elizalde, a beloved Mexican singer, is one of the most chilling. He performed a corrido believed to offend a rival cartel. Hours later, after a concert in Reynosa, he was ambushed and killed. His music had crossed an invisible line. His voice had sung the wrong anthem. And he was not the only one. Dozens of musicians across Latin America have been silenced, kidnapped, threatened, or murdered, because their songs were seen as siding with the wrong faction. For cartels, music is war. And in war, every note is a bullet. But here's the haunting part: the deaths of these musicians only amplified their songs. Their corridos became even more famous after their murders. Streams skyrocketed. Radios replayed them endlessly. What was meant to silence their voices often turned them into martyrs, and gave the cartels even more power. And it didn't stop at Mexico. Narco music spread worldwide. In Los Angeles, Houston, and Chicago, immigrant communities blasted corridos at parties, carrying the culture across borders. YouTube channels racked up millions of views. Spotify playlists of narco anthems trended globally. Suddenly, the legends of cartel bosses weren't confined to villages in Sinaloa. They were blasting through headphones in New York, London, and Madrid. a local propaganda machine had become an international soundtrack. For young listeners, it became more than just music. It was identity, style, lifestyle, a way to feel connected to something powerful. And for cartels, it was perfect. They had turned their crimes into culture, their names into lyrics, and their empire into rhythm. But here's the truth, the music isn't just entertainment. It isn't just propaganda. Behind the beats and the rhymes lies something even bigger, money. Every stream, every concert ticket, every video view can be a pipeline for laundering cash. And the cartels know it. Because in the end, the soundtrack of power isn't measured in notes, it's measured in dollars. And that takes us to the heart of the story. If music is the anthem and social media is the billboard, then money is the engine. It's the bloodstream of the cartels. It's how they transform blood into luxury, chaos into order, and fear into silence. But money leaves trails. Or does it? The cartels have always understood one truth: violence builds fear, but money builds empires. Guns create headlines. Money creates power. And for the cartels, power isn't measured in the number of bodies buried in the desert, it's measured in the number of legitimate businesses they own, the politicians they buy, and the clean faces they wear in public. Laundering dirty cash is the cornerstone of cartel survival. Because drugs bring in billions, but piles of cash stacked in warehouses mean nothing unless it can flow into the economy. And so, the cartels created rivers. Rivers of money flowing through businesses that looked perfectly ordinary. Nightclubs, trucking companies, construction firms, car dealerships, real estate agencies. On the surface, they're jobs, investments, entertainment. But behind the neon lights and polished logos, they're washing machines, cleaning blood-soaked bills into crisp, invisible profits. Consider the trucking industry. A fleet of trucks moving produce from Mexico to the U.S. looks legitimate. Every invoice checks out. But hidden in the cargo are bricks of cocaine. Hidden in the company's books are inflated invoices, fake clients, and false receipts. By the time authorities try to trace the money, it's already been blended into legitimate trade. Or real estate. Mansions bought in cash. Apartments purchased under relatives' names. Skyscrapers rising in cities, built with dirty money but rented by clean tenants. Who questions where the money came from when the rent is paid on time? For cartels, every building is a monument. Not to drugs, but to invisibility. And then came cryptocurrency. The perfect invention for the perfect crime. Anonymous wallets. Borderless transactions. Billions moved with a click. No suitcases. No banks. No questions. Cartels no longer needed to move bricks of cash across borders. They could move Bitcoin, Ethereum, Monero, coins traded, split, and layered until the origins vanished. What once took planes and trucks now took seconds. But it wasn't just cryptocurrency. It was prepaid debit cards. Gift cards. Wire transfers through shell companies. 1,000 small transactions scattered across the globe, impossible to track. Like drops of water in the ocean, impossible to separate once they hit the tide. Behind it all are shell companies, empty corporations that exist only on paper. Registered in tax havens. Hidden in offshore accounts. Cartels don't just hide their money, they disguise it as international business. An oil firm in Panama. A fishing company in Belize. A consulting agency in Switzerland. No products. No offices. Just names and signatures. And every signature is another wall of protection. Another mask. By the time investigators trace the money, they hit a labyrinth of companies. One shell leads to another, which leads to another, until the trail dissolves into a black hole. Billions vanish every year into the shadow economy. Not underground. Not hidden. But perfectly legal on paper. And here is where the story takes its darkest turn. Because cartels don't operate alone. They never have. For dirty money to become clean, it must be accepted. And often, it is accepted at the highest levels. Politicians, mayors, senators, even presidents accused of turning a blind eye. Contracts handed to cartel-owned companies. Campaign donations flowing in from businessmen. Behind every smiling handshake, behind every ribbon-cutting ceremony, there may be blood money. And it's not just politicians. In the age of social media, influencers play a role too. Some flaunt luxury cars, designer clothes, exotic vacations, never asking where the sponsorship comes from. Others are directly paid to launder an image, to soften the cartel's reputation, to blur the line between crime and glamour. Millions follow. Few question. Every so often, investigators get close. They trace accounts. They uncover shell companies. They freeze assets. But just when the net tightens, the money vanishes. A company shuts down overnight. An account is emptied in seconds. A suspect flees abroad. And the world is left with questions. Where did the billions go? Who allowed it to disappear? And most chilling of all, how much of that money is sitting quietly in the global economy, invisible, disguised as clean wealth? Because here's the truth, the cartels don't hide in jungles or mountains anymore. They hide in nightclubs. In banks. In glass towers. They hide in plain sight, wearing suits and ties, shaking hands with world leaders, smiling for cameras. Dirty money. Clean faces. And this is where the cartels truly disappear. Not underground. Not in the shadows. But right in front of us. And this is where the cartels slip from view, not underground, but in plain sight. We've seen the masks. The digital mask of social media. The cultural mask of music. The financial mask of clean faces. But here's the truth, these masks don't exist separately. They're threads in the same web. A web so intricate, so tightly woven, that the more you struggle to see it, the less visible it becomes. Take social media. A flashy Instagram post of a luxury car. A TikTok clip of a rooftop party. A Snapchat story of stacks of cash. Alone, it looks like bragging. But then comes the soundtrack. The narco-corrido that glorifies the same cars, the same guns, the same parties. Suddenly, the flex isn't random, it's synced to music. A song becomes the anthem to a lifestyle. And now, that lifestyle doesn't just exist on the streets. It exists in algorithms, in hashtags, in viral clips that millions watch. Now layer the money. Every stream on Spotify. Every YouTube ad revenue payout. Every concert ticket. The more the music spreads, the more the money flows. Dirty cash doesn't need to move in duffel bags anymore. It moves in digital deposits from entertainment platforms. A corrido becomes more than a song, it becomes a financial pipeline. Music feeds money. And then the cycle completes. The laundered money funds social media empires. Influencers are paid to flex. Ads are bought to boost videos. Bots are hired to inflate numbers. What looks like organic popularity is often manufactured by cartel money. And the bigger the presence online, the deeper the invisibility, because who questions success when it looks legitimate? Picture it like this. A flashy song drops. Within hours, TikTok creators use it for viral dances. Each dance amplifies the lifestyle. The video trends. Ads funnel cartel money through the platform. Recruits, young, impressionable, DM the accounts linked to those trends. And soon, the cycle isn't just digital. It's physical. A teen who heard a song becomes a driver. A driver becomes an enforcer. One song. One post. One payment. A whole life rewritten. And that's the brilliance of the web. Each strand strengthens the other. Social media gives music reach. Music gives money legitimacy. Money gives social media power. A loop without end. An ecosystem that feeds itself. And here lies the paradox, the more public the cartels are, the more invisible they become. The Instagram flex distracts from the bank transfers. The music distracts from the murders. The luxury lifestyle distracts from the terror that funds it. They're not hiding in shadows. They're hiding in plain sight. So loud, so bright, that no one thinks to look deeper. Imagine 3 circles. One labeled social media. One labeled music. One labeled money. Where they overlap, the web tightens. Music amplifies social media. Social media justifies the money. Money fuels the music. And at the very center of this Venn diagram sits the cartel. Invisible. Untouchable. Because as long as the web spins, the spider remains unseen. For the cartels, invisibility isn't just about dodging law enforcement. It's about seduction. Every post, every lyric, every transaction whispers the same message: this life is untouchable. Young men and women buy into the dream. Some become soldiers. Some become fans. Some become willing accomplices without ever realizing it. And just like that, the web grows larger. Not just criminals, but ordinary people caught in its strands. But no web is perfect. Threads fray. Cracks appear. Law enforcement has begun to notice. Investigators monitor hashtags. Algorithms flag suspicious patterns. Music streaming platforms are pressed to review lyrics. Banks are pressured to track crypto flows. The cartels are still ahead, but for the first time, eyes are watching. Watching closely. The cartels know this. They know the hunters are circling. But they also know something else: visibility is still their weapon. Because as long as the world is watching the spectacle, few see the strings that hold it together. The more public they are, the more invisible they become. But the cracks are showing. Law enforcement is watching. Every empire has an enemy. For the cartels, that enemy wears badges, carries files, and speaks in codes of justice. Law enforcement. Investigators. Analysts. But the truth is, the war between cartels and authorities has never been straightforward. It's not black and white. It's a game of shadows. A game of cat and mouse. In the old days, investigators trailed suspects on foot. They tapped phone lines. They intercepted radio signals. But now, the battlefield is digital. Teams of cyber agents sift through hashtags, track suspicious accounts, and build networks of connections. A TikTok video showing a party? It's not just entertainment, it's evidence. A corrido lyric about the eagle flying north? It's flagged as code. Every post, every like, every story could be a breadcrumb. And yet, for every breadcrumb, the trail often dissolves. Accounts are deleted. Stories vanish after 24 hours. Posts are uploaded, then wiped clean before anyone can trace them. It's as if the cartels are whispering into the void, loud enough to be heard, but too faint to be captured. Some agencies go further. They infiltrate. Undercover agents pose as recruits online, sliding into the same DMs where cartels scout teenagers. They mimic the slang, use the emojis, speak the coded language. Sometimes, they succeed. Sometimes, they're discovered. And when they're discovered, the consequences are fatal. But perhaps the most dangerous role isn't the investigator. It's the truth teller. Whistleblowers inside banks, telecom companies, or even political offices who see the money trails and dare to speak. Journalists who dig into cartel influence and publish stories that no one else will touch. Some of them are heroes. Some of them are martyrs. Many are silenced before their words ever reach the world. Mexico is one of the most dangerous countries in the world for journalists. Entire newspapers have shut down after editors were killed. Reporters vanish without a trace. And yet, still, some keep writing. Their pens are sharp, but they bleed for every word. There are cases too chilling to ignore. In 2010, a Mexican digital crimes investigator vanished after tracing cartel activity online. His last report noted unusual encrypted communications tied to social media accounts. he was never seen again. His files disappeared from the servers the same week. In Colombia, an anti-narcotics official was lured into a fake meeting set up through WhatsApp. His body was found 2 days later. His phone? Wiped clean. Each disappearance is a warning. The cartels don't just delete digital trails, they delete people. And still, the investigators return. Knowing the risks. Knowing they may vanish too. Because the truth is, for every agent lost, another steps in. The cat keeps chasing. The mouse keeps running. So who is winning? That's the question that haunts every headline. On one side, the cartels, rich, ruthless, adaptive. They evolve faster than governments. They recruit faster than laws can change. They kill without hesitation. On the other, law enforcement, underfunded, undermanned, often infiltrated by corruption. Fighting not just criminals, but an entire culture of fear. Sometimes, the authorities strike back. Raids seize drugs. Money is frozen. Leaders are arrested. Photos flood the news, handcuffed bosses march through flashing cameras. For a moment, it feels like victory. But behind bars, new leaders rise. The web repairs itself. The music plays on. The money flows again. And this is the cruel rhythm. 1 step forward. 2 steps back. Arrests that feel like headlines, but not endings. Because the cartels don't live or die with one man. They live in the system they built, the web of invisibility that keeps spinning. Still, cracks are widening. Algorithms flagging suspicious money flows. AI scanning lyrics for codes. Social media companies pressured to act. Journalists refusing to be silenced. The cartels are not invincible. They are hunted. Watched. Recorded. Every post, every song, every transfer leaves traces. Invisible to most. Visible to the few who know where to look. But the question remains, how much time do investigators have before the cartels adapt again? How long before the cat is tricked, and the mouse disappears once more? Because in this game of shadows, victory isn't permanent. Every win is temporary. Every headline fades. Every name arrested is replaced by another name whispered in the dark. The cartels are masters of reinvention. The law is always 1 step behind. And so the game continues. And the truth is, in this game of cat and mouse, no one really knows who's winning. The truth is, in this game of shadows, the ending isn't written yet. Behind every headline, behind every flashy narco video, there are families whose stories never make it past the whispers. Mothers burying sons who never came home. Children growing up in houses where silence is safer than truth. Whole communities living under invisible rules, rules written not in laws, but in fear. In Mexico alone, more than 100,000 people are missing, vanished into the silence of cartel violence. Some were in the wrong place at the wrong time. Others resisted. Many were just ordinary people trying to live. Imagine the father who goes to work driving a truck, unaware the route has been marked by a cartel. He never returns. Or the student recruited through a DM, promised quick money, who disappears after one job too many. Their families search, post flyers, beg for answers. And most of the time, there are none. For these families, grief never ends. It lingers like smoke. Every knock on the door might be news, or danger. Every phone call could be hope, or heartbreak. And the silence from authorities? That silence is louder than gunfire. In towns across Latin America, entire communities live under a silent rule. Shops open and close on cartel schedules. Politicians campaign only with permission. Teachers know which subjects not to teach. Everyone knows who's really in charge, but no one dares to speak it aloud. It's an invisible cage. A world where life continues, markets open, children play, weddings are held, but beneath it all lies a constant, suffocating fear. And still, most of the world scrolls past, unaware. Because what the cartels truly mastered was not just fear in their towns, but invisibility in ours. Here's the truth no one wants to admit: ordinary people, people like you, like me, become part of the machine without even realizing it. Every time a narco music video racks up millions of views, ad money flows. Every click on a viral clip of cash and cars fuels their reach. Every share, even out of shock or disbelief, helps their message spread further. The algorithm doesn't care why you watch. It only knows that you did. And with each play, each stream, each like, the cartels grow stronger, richer, bolder. You think you're just scrolling. But to them, you're contributing. You're part of the audience they depend on. Their invisibility is built not on silence, but on our attention. This is the shocking reality: the war isn't just fought in the mountains, or on dark roads, or in secret meetings. It's fought on the screen you're watching right now. Every Instagram flex. Every TikTok story. Every YouTube upload. They're not just propaganda, they're weapons. Weapons aimed not at governments, but at you. To normalize. To glamorize. To hypnotize. And the most dangerous part? It works. Studies show teenagers in border towns idolize cartel figures the same way others idolize athletes or celebrities. Cartels are no longer just shadowy organizations. They're influencers. And their battleground is the same one where you post your selfies and scroll your memes. Meanwhile, the victims disappear in silence. Their names never trend. Their stories don't get likes. They don't become hashtags. They fade in the background while the shiny propaganda surges forward. But for every video flaunting stacks of cash, there's a mother searching in the dirt for her child's bones. For every viral song glorifying narcos, there's a family too afraid to sing at all. And this is the truth that should shake us: the cartel's greatest camouflage isn't their weapons. It isn't their money. It isn't even their music. It's us. Our silence. Our clicks. Our indifference. Think about it. Every time you scroll, you're walking through a battlefield you don't even see. Every viral post is a smoke signal. Every flashy story is a recruitment poster. The war isn't out there. It's here. In your feed. On your phone. In your pocket. The most dangerous place for the cartel to hide isn't in the mountains. It isn't in mansions. It isn't in offshore accounts. It's right where you'd never expect it. The most dangerous place for the cartel to hide is right in your pocket. And if they're already in your pocket, how far do you think they are from your mind? So after all the stories, the music, the money, the silence, and the shadows, what's left? One truth: the cartels are not ghosts. They are not myths. They are not far away. They are right here, woven into the feeds we scroll, the songs we hum, the headlines we glance at and then forget. They don't need to hide in bunkers. They don't need to vanish into jungles. They hide in something far more powerful: our attention. Our indifference. Our distraction. And as you hear this, as you sit there, scrolling, watching, maybe even forgetting, the machine keeps running. Someone, somewhere, is posting another video. Someone else is liking it. Sharing it. Fueling it. The web keeps spinning. We think we're safe because we're only watching. Because we're only listening. Because it's only a story. But stories shape power. And every story you consume has a price. The real question is, who's paying it? Maybe it's a family still searching in silence. Maybe it's a journalist who wrote too much. Maybe it's a town that hasn't spoken in years. And maybe, without realizing it, it's us. Because every time we scroll, every time we click, we choose what survives, and what disappears. And that's the part no one likes to admit: the line between entertainment and propaganda is razor thin. The cartels don't need to force their way into our lives. We invite them in. So tonight, when you scroll, pause. Look closer. Ask yourself, whose story are you really watching? And remember, sometimes, the most dangerous stories are the ones that look the most ordinary. As you scroll tonight, one question lingers: whose story are you really watching? If stories like this matter to you, if you believe the truth deserves to be heard, not buried, then don't stay silent. Hit subscribe. Share this video. Leave your thoughts below. Every action you take helps push these hidden stories into the light, where the cartels can't hide. Because silence is what keeps them powerful. And your voice is what makes them visible.